Hello, dear learners. This is Dr. Sedhupathy, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science with Artificial Intelligence and Data Science, Dr. SNS Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore. So today, the discussion of the topic is like disk and directory structure in operating system. Okay, so agenda for the discussion is like a disk structure and a typical file system organization related with disk structure, types of file system, directory structures, and operations performed on the directory and directory organization. And coming to disk structure, basically in every operating system, the memory disk are subdivided into partitions, logical partitions, and disks or partitions can be RAID protected against failure. So RAID is a type of method which protects against failures in disk read and write. And the partition can be used as a raw without file system or formatted with a file system. So basically a raw file system is just a partition. You are not supposed to read or write files in the raw partition, whereas formatted disk structure you can able to use read and write files into the formatted partition. And the partitions are also known as mini disks or slices of disks. And another term called entity which containing file system is known as a volume, which means volume of slices or partitions known for the data or file entry. Each volume containing a file system which also tracks the file system's informations like directory name, volume, label, size, partitions, number of logics, number of disks, and so on. In addition to that, generally general purpose file system and there are many special purpose file systems like all within the same operating system of a computer system, which are all basically used inside any different types of operating systems like open source, even specific special purpose operating system. So the file format is different for each operating system, whereas this structure is almost common for every operating systems. And here is the typical representation of file system organization. And the first diagram is showed as two directories, which is two partitions. Partition A contains a certain type of files over here, and partition B contains certain files over here. All together, there is disk 1, which means the disk 1 is subdivided into two partitions, namely partition A and partition B. And coming to right side diagram, here partition C is altogether combined with two disks, namely disk 2 and disk 3, which means a single disk can be partitioned into two partitions, namely A and B. A and B are here just labels, and from the right side, two disks, namely disk 2 and disk 3, altogether partitioned as single directory. So both are possible in directory structure of a basic operating system in the file system organization. Okay. So hope users might understand how partitions are made from the disk structures. And coming to types of file systems. So we generally talks about general purpose file system, but sometimes there are some general purpose as well as some special purpose file systems are also available. Here is some common example. Consider Solaris, which has a TMF file system, which is based on volatile file system, which is so fast and temporary input output, and object file system OBJ, which is used as an interface into kernel memory to get kernel symbols for debugging and so on. CT file system, which is contract file system, and LO file system, look back file system, allows one file system to be accessed in places of another, and pro file system and UFS, ZFS are general purpose file system. And coming to directory structure, here there are collection of nodes from the diagram, the circles represents the collection of nodes which containing common information about files like name of the file, size of the file, where the file actually created, and file access types, and so on. And the bottom segment contains F1, F2, F3, F4, and so Fn represents the file resides on which collection of nodes. So by using this structure, each and every files can able to access and identify in which logical section files are actually stored. And coming to operations performed on the directories, basically search for a file in the directory and creating file, deleting file, listing a directory and renaming particular file, and traverse for the file system, which means you are supposed to search file directory, you have to traverse from each and every file directory. And here is the type of directory organization, so which is basically on the logical organization. So the use of directory organization is basically efficiency to improve quick access of files. Numbing is used for convenient for the users. There may be more number of users use same file name on different files, and there are some files can have several different names for the purpose of different user access. Grouping is here accessed by means of logical grouping of files by based on the properties like programs, composer files, system oriented files, text files, and so on. So thank you dear learners for your patient listening on this topic. I would like to look forward you in future with some other interesting topic related to operating system. Thank you all.